Alright guys, welcome back, GM Light here. So right now, I just got back from seeing Saw X, so I'm going to explain the ending. So with Saw X, you have the basic premise of Jigsaw going to Mexico, seeking out experimental cancer treatment, only to find out that he's been scammed. So he turns the tables on the fake professionals who helped him get cured, and this is where we get this movie set in between Saw 1 and 2. Throughout the movie, he tests these people, puts them in traps. You get the usual arrangement of Saw things, and you get it in a bit of a unique way because you actually get Jigsaw as the main primary kind of protagonist throughout most of the movie. But the ending turns the tables on that, and I'll explain all of that right now. So I think one of the fresh and unique things about this movie was how towards the end of the movie, it actually seemed like for once someone outsmarted Jigsaw and turned the tables on him. And this is through Cecilia, who's basically the villain of the movie despite being the one trapped. And this character was very reprehensible, very evil. She does a lot of things that make you very much get put on Jigsaw's side. It almost reminded me of Orphan First Kill, with how nefarious the family was that Esther was staying with, that you almost rooted for Esther to kill him in the end. And you get that same kind of situation here with Jigsaw. And when all is said and done, it's basically down to Cecilia. She's the only trap that's really left after Gabriella does and barely survives. Parker, who was supposedly another patient that was duped by Cecilia, shows up and interferes on the plans. Jigsaw lets him in under the false pretense that Parker was another guy who was scammed. He wants his money back, and that's why he's showing up with a gun. Jigsaw traps him, takes him in, locks him up, and gives him a choice, and then he unlocks him and allows him to take the gun. He basically turns on Jigsaw and Amanda, and it turns out that he is actually Cecilia's lover and was in on it the whole time. This is where you are kind of left wondering what happened. Did Jigsaw know this would happen? Does he have a plan for this? You'll see, because Jigsaw always has a contingency. They chain up Jigsaw in the spot where Cecilia was, but plans change when Cecilia sees Carlos kicking the soccer ball from outside. Carlos is the little boy that's shown earlier in the movie. John helps him get the wheel back on his bicycle and kind of forms a cute friendship with him. But Cecilia takes him hostage, puts him on the other side of the trap so that they're both locked up, and it chains both of them to the ground on a platform where they're raised above ground. When one of them pulls the lever, blood starts to pour on one of them while the other angle tilts. John pulls the lever so that it tilts over on his side and starts drowning him in blood. He decides to take the brunt because Carlos wasn't in on it. This wasn't expected. He wasn't part of the plan, and he's just a little boy that didn't deserve to be there, so he was willing to take the brunt of the bloodbath. But Carlos actually ends up pulling the lever to alleviate some of that off of Jigsaw, take some of the brunt of that, makes it so that Jigsaw doesn't drown in blood. John pulls the lever back though and continues to take it. Cecilia and Parker go up to the box where Jigsaw was commanding things earlier because they're looking for the money. I also think I need to mention the fact that not only did they chain up Amanda separately from the trap with John and Carlos, but Cecilia actually also killed Gabriella, who was already dying from her wounds from the trap that she barely survived. But this is when the tables turn and you get that familiar, iconic Hello Zepp tune playing. That's when you know it's all over, and Jigsaw had this all planned from the start. It's when the doors lock in on Cecilia and Parker, and you find out that this is just another contingency that Jigsaw had planned the whole time. He told Parker that he had to follow the rules, and he didn't, so he had a plan for it. John and Carlos are let go from the trap of the blood pouring, and John says it didn't go exactly according to plan, but it worked, which I assume means that they were planning on having it be Jigsaw and Amanda instead of Jigsaw and the little boy. From then they show some of the flashbacks of Jigsaw emptying the gunpowder out of the bullets, putting it back in. He had the whole thing completely in his control the whole time and just kind of allowed it to play out. He knew that Cecilia and Parker were lovers the whole time, didn't for one second think that Parker was actually this guy who he claimed to be. But now it's just Cecilia and Parker left in the room being gassed out while one of them has to make it out alive by poking their head out a small hole that only has room for one. Both of them are just gasping for air, trying to make it out, and they're fighting each other for that little bit of air. Cecilia, of course, does the evil thing and kills Parker, her lover, so that she could stick her head out and survive. And this was actually kind of surprising that they left things ambiguous. You actually don't know whether she lives or dies. I think that she actually may have survived. And what's interesting about it is that she's so despicable that you would think that they would emphasize and agonize on her painful death, especially because she deserves it so much. But this is why I think that they're not done yet with Jigsaw, they're not done yet with Amanda, and they have another sequel planned following up on this with her. This might be the beginning of a new trilogy, who knows? But in my honest opinion, what I think that they should do is go the Halloween route and do split timelines. The Saw lore and continuity is starting to get bogged down so much. I don't know how much more credibility they could really strain by having more prequels before Jigsaw died. It would just be a lot to have this whole other character arc happen, and I think that that would take a lot of the burden of the continuity off of the chest of the creators if they allowed them to kind of just go forward in a new timeline and do their own thing, not be restrained to what happened in the past. And then we could get this interesting setup of Jigsaw with an actual villain in Cecilia. She kind of makes an interesting antithetical part to him, because usually the people that are in the traps are the protagonist. In some degree, even if they're a little bit scummy, they're usually the people that are trying to survive. Jigsaw usually has the entire thing completely in his control. Not that he didn't have control the whole time in this movie, but for the first time you feel like someone had a chance of actually having him. And you never have really seen someone turn the tables on Jigsaw like this. It would make for an interesting sequel to have her come back. And I think it's a little unsatisfying that we didn't really get to see an end to that story and see her kind of get her comeuppance. But with that, Jigsaw, Carlos, Amanda leave, and that's pretty much the end of the movie, but we do get a post-credit scene. And to my surprise, this post-credit scene got a Marvel level reaction out of the theater. Just, you see the lights come on in the bathroom from the original Saw movie, and this is where you reveal that one of the guys who lied about having cancer and kind of duped John into this whole thing to begin with is hung up with a mechanism on his chest. They reveal that Hoffman is also there, and that is the big cameo that got the big applause out of the theater. I never thought that a Hoffman cameo of all things would get a big reaction out of a theater, but I guess it's Thursday night, it's opening. This is where all the fans are going to be kind of front loaded, so it kind of makes sense that that would be what's happening. There's 10 of these movies, for Christ's sake. Obviously there's a fan base, but Hoffman says the line from the trailer, which I didn't recognize as Hoffman because I think they slightly altered the voice so that you don't think it's him, but he says the line, of all the people you could have fooled, had to be John Kramer, not very lucky, which is very true indeed. The mechanism starts to activate on the guy's chest, and that's how the movie ends. Overall, a very interesting story. I thought the twists were very good. It made for a very different Saw ending. The way that the dynamics played and having Jigsaw kind of at a disadvantage for the first time was interesting to see. But I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Did you like this ending? How did you feel about it? I'd love to hear. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.